What's up, everybody? This episode, we're talking to somebody who has an incredible story. He went through a lot of medical issues at a very young age, and he didn't give up his passions throughout the process. So we're talking about Jiu-Jitsu and how it played a big role in his life, and we're talking about faith. So let's get into it. Yeah, this is gonna be fun. So what's up, guys? I'm here with
I'm Topher McLaughlin.
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 McLaughlin. I think I just butchered that.
It happens.
So we're here. He's going to talk to us about his story. We're going to get to know him a little bit more. And if you guys are going through any similar situations or any situations where you have any, fear, any type of thing you're going through, I guess you'll be able to, be a little more motivated, more, feel seen, I guess. Okay. So if you can just introduce yourself to them and tell us how you got to meet my brother and start training jiu-jitsu and all that. So
Of course. Well, I'm happy to be here. So thank you very much for having me. This is very exciting. As long as I can help one person with this journey of theirs, I would be so happy. But like we said in the beginning, my name's Topher McLaughlin. I started jiu-jitsu in April of 2022. Before that, I was training for a triathlon. So I was utilizing the jiu-jitsu training to become a triathlete. And how I got into jiu-jitsu, the typical, and this sounds kind of fanboyish, but I was listening to a lot of Jocko Willing podcasts. I was getting up at 4 a.m. I was having those discipline talks with myself, journaling, everything. I still do a lot of those daily activities. And I'm still very happy that I'm able to do jiu-jitsu. But how I got to this point, it did start with a funny story. I broke my ankle on Thanksgiving. And during that time, I realized that I wanted to be doing more with my rehab, doing more with the recovery.
And so you broke your ankle before you...
Before even starting jiu-jitsu.
And before starting like triathlons, or you broke it training for triathlon?
That started my triathlon training.
Oh, really? Wow.
The day that I realized that, okay, I'm off this scooter thing, I can finally begin to walk. I went to the rowing machine at LA Fitness and just rowed for an hour straight. The next day, up at 4 a.m., went to LA Fitness, walked for a mile. And that turned into actually meeting a bunch of nice old ladies at the pool. They baked goods for me. I went every single day to LA Fitness in the morning to swim and then to bike at home and then go downtown to Chicago, work, go to school, come back, do it all again. So it was very, very difficult, but I realized it was paying dividends when my body started to feel good. My mental health started to feel good. I realized I was making strides, becoming a better version of myself. And with that, I truly think jiu-jitsu is finding the best version of yourself. So during that time of getting my ankle better, getting to the point where I wanted to be, I started training, and I was the trial class day one. I went into this gym called BJJ Lab in Elmhurst, now called VOOC BJJ. Day one, I met the professor. His name was Skinny, and I couldn't believe that this tiny, truly tiny man, 120 pounds, was performing these insane moves to people who are bigger than me. I'm 220 pounds, 6'1", and I'm just watching him loop around these guys with the grips stronger than anything I've ever seen in my life.
That's really why jiu-jitsu was created, to show that like the smaller person can still use the weight and advantage over the heavier person. So it's still cool to see that it still does that today.
Yep, and that was every single time I listened to the podcast. It was technique over strength, and I got to see that day one, and I realized this is for me. I learned the mounted cross collar choke. And from there, I fell in love. I was getting smoked by guys every single day. I was in the gym twice a day from the day I started, 6 a.m. class to 7, and then to the fundamentals class from 6:45 to 7:30, then the adult class from 7:30 to 8:30. So I became addicted to it very, very fast. I couldn't stop. And from April of 2022, I then received my master's degree. I graduated from Master of Healthcare Administration from UIC. And it was not as rewarding as getting that first stripe 3 months later. And I know you're not supposed to think as a white belt, I need my stripes, but it was to the point where I loved it so much that I was so dedicated and so bought in that every other achievement and accomplishment I was doing or thought about didn't matter up until that point. But I was utilizing that training to then become a triathlete. And during that time, I found this to be the best form of training. I kind of stopped lifting weights. I don't really lift weights as much anymore because
So you used it mainly like for your cardio?
100%.
Yeah? Okay.
100%. And I was able to do the triathlon in August of 2022, and I was very happy with it. The day after, I'm back on the mats. There was nothing as cool as grappling with all of my friends and learning about this insanely fun sport. However, things kind of went downhill for me a little bit. They didn't go downhill too fast. So from that August moment to January of 2023, I was training for my first ever competition, white belt competition, heavyweights. I go in there. First, I get a takedown. We didn't really do takedowns. We were big of a pulling guard school, but I did my first takedown. Inside trip, landed right onto side control, took the mount, got the head and arm triangle. Absolutely loved it. I thought I was king of the world. I didn't think I was ever going to lose. The next match, I got mounted the entire 5 minutes. I lost by points. Yeah. I got second place. But the best thing about it was I tried. I got out on the competition level. I passed all of my fears on thinking, I'm old right now. I don't have to do this. No one cares if I actually do this, but at the end of the day, I cared. It mattered to me. It still matters to me. Yeah. And this is why I show up.
How old were you when you?
I was 27.
27.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Like every day, like people I work with, some family members and stuff like that, they're always like, "Oh, I'm too old to start jiu-jitsu." Yeah. And it's like they're around that age, like 27, 28, 29, even up to like 35. They're like, I'm so old, but it's like that time frame is really where your like prime begins. Is that everybody thinks they're old at that moment or they're getting old, but like if you stay active, like not necessarily only doing jiu-jitsu, but like doing something, like jiu-jitsu is like a big body weight sport. So doing jiu-jitsu kind of helps like staying loose and staying active, or keep your joints lubricated and all that. So yeah, it's if you guys feel like you're old, you're too old, we have in Gracie Bach Kissimmee, we have a gentleman who's over, I think he's in his 80s actually, but he fought in the Vietnam War and he's just starting. He's like a 2-stripe white belt, I think. But I mean, you're never too old to get started. So yeah.
That is a great point. You truly are never too old. I mean, there's a saying about planting a tree. When's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. What's the second best time? Today.
Yeah.
So if you didn't start 10 years ago, that's fine. You can always start today because that is truly the most optimal time. You have nothing but time, so why not utilize it effectively? Get out on the mats. Try something new.
Yeah, exactly. So just this story alone that is kind of crazy. It kind of goes into another like point and topic where a lot of people like maybe hurt their knee, break their ankle, arm, shoulder, whatever, and they kind of stay away from like combat sports, jiu-jitsu mainly because they're like, oh, I have an old injury, you know what I mean? So I don't want to re-injure, and they kind of like write themselves off of like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do that stuff again. And here you are, like after breaking your ankle, getting into triathlons and then competing in jiu-jitsu and so on. Like that's pretty. I guess like that's a tough mindset type of thing. You know what I mean? That make or break where this bad thing happens, and what are you gonna do with that bad thing to either like do something good with your life or go down the road of, oh, I'm not gonna be able to do anything anymore.
Exactly, and I could have stopped. I could have never just gotten on the mat, and no one would have batted an eye. But you have to get past those issues, those problems. You can either let it kill you, figuratively and literally, or you can try to get up one step at a time, 1 foot at a time, and make those efforts to try and become a better person. And after that competition, this was, I wish it was actually only a broken ankle. That was the worst thing that happened to me.
Right.
We're getting to that part. But the competition, like I said, wonderful learning experience. Had a great time, and I will be doing more in the future. But after that January one, I started to progressively get sicker and sicker. It's hard to tell exactly what happened because the brain is such a finicky organ. And once it gets messed up, the memories kind of get faded, they get fuzzy, and everything gets twisted on you. Not to say twisted, but it gets twisted on you. And during that time, from January to March, I cognitively declined rapidly to the point where I was in a catatonic and comatose state. I was hit with a disease called autoimmune encephalitis, and that is when the white blood cells in the brain attack healthy white blood cells in the brain. So essentially the brain is getting hit by it's inflammation of the brain to the point where it has nowhere to go, and your body starts to shut down rapidly. And the doctors thought it was either meningitis or any sort of fungal or bacterial infection. Nothing was coming out. I had 2 lumbar punctures. Unfortunately, those are very, very painful. I don't recommend them. But those came back negative for an antibody test for autoimmune encephalitis. However,
lumbar punctures. How did what is that from? What caused that?
So the doctors, the emergency room doctors, they wanted to do a lumbar puncture because in the cerebral spinal fluid, if your brain is swelling, the spinal fluid has titers, I think they're called, or little markers in there to show whether it is inflamed or whether there is a disease present. Now there are many of those markers within the cerebral spinal fluid that will show or be indicative to autoimmune encephalitis. The one that I have, unfortunately, is called seronegative. You cannot tell which antibodies they are because this disease is now so new to the point where it's currently the research is still developing. So there's not a whole lot of medical literature on it to understand what exactly caused this, why this happened. They did a bunch of tests from herpes simplex to malaria to diseases I had no clue even how to pronounce them. But from that, I was in a coma for about a week straight. I had the craziest hallucinations of all time. A lot of them had to do with Jiu-Jitsu. Some of them were pretty cool. A lot of them were very scary, but it's life-changing when you go through an experience like that and you wake up in a hospital bed not knowing anything. You have no clue what happened to you. I couldn't walk. I couldn't talk. My very first words were actually, "I'm hungry." In my hallucination, I thought I had to make weight for my jiu-jitsu competition that actually took place about 2.5 months before that. So as you can tell, jiu-jitsu is always on my mind, whether it's working or not, it's always there. But it was devastating to wake up and realize, my life has now changed. What am I possibly going to do? How do I get past this? Yeah, breaking an ankle was not fun, but when you have an invisible disease where you look fine on the outside, but something is not right on the inside is very, very difficult. And I felt something not being right for quite some time. And I just didn't know what it was. I thought I chalked it up to stress. I wanted to find a new job. I am now currently in a new apartment. I'm trying to propose to my now wife. We were trying to plan a wedding, actually. We were going to Italy 3 weeks. Our wedding date was April 21st. We were supposed to be in Italy. However, I got sick and into a coma on March 25th. So a solid month before we were supposed to go to Italy, I went down pretty hard. But it's just, like I said, it's scary. You don't know what's going to happen. Luckily, I had a wonderful support system who were there with me every step of the way. And every time I had to learn how to use a walker or get up in the hospital room to try and do normal things that a person could. But I had 4 different nurses with me and just trying to figure out what's this next step going to look like? Am I ever going to be able to work again? And one of the main things on my mind actually is, how the heck am I going to get back to the mats? This has become such a huge part of my life. This was the only thing I wanted to do for so long. Nothing else really mattered, even though it kind of did. But in my mind, this is number one. This is everything I wanted to do. I felt like I was actually an athlete for the first time in a very long time. Yeah, I played golf in high school. I played rugby in college. That's fine. I was never, great at any of them. I was pretty good at golf or whatever. Jiu-Jitsu was the most fun thing for me at that time. It was something I was developing and becoming pretty good at pretty quick. And that just goes to show it takes time to do something, but the more time you put in, the more you will get out of it. And I felt at that moment when I woke up that how do I use my time right now to get back to the person I am or I was? Will I ever be that person again? And what can I do right now to just try to feel better? But I can keep going, or where do you want me to?
So yeah, just if you could keep going, after you woke up, did they start treating you? What kind of treatments they did, and if it completely went away, or what I mean?
Great point. Yeah, no, I talk a lot. I get off topic here.
No worries.
But yes, so funny enough, my jiu-jitsu coach, we were and still are good friends, and to the point where we would text each other memes every single day. And when I stopped talking to him for about 3 weeks to a month, he started getting a little worried, calling me a couple times a day. My wife found my phone, was like, why aren't you going to class? Like, what's going on? And I didn't have words because I couldn't talk at that point. I was stuck in bed. But what happened after that is my jiu-jitsu coach, Skinny, he came and saw me in the hospital. And he was not ready to see exactly what happened. My wife, Trisha, she was talking to him on the phone saying she didn't really know what was going on. The doctors are kind of here and there with what I have and what the next steps are. So he showed up, and you could just tell the look in his face was, holy smokes, like,
This is
what
real.
happened? Yeah, like I thought this was maybe, you got very sick with the flu and you're dehydrated. You just need a couple IVs. But it turns out I had about 6 different IVs going in me from, it's called IVIG, immunoglobulin through the vein, intravenous immunoglobulin, which is plasma, because that is in the medical world, plasma. If you circulate it throughout the blood, it can try to help out those white blood cells become healthy again or promote more red and white blood cell activity. I think I got that right. You might know more.
No,
Okay. I'm pretty
no.
sure I got that one right. Fact check me, folks, if I don't, but I'm pretty sure that was what's going on. Another thing that they had me on was IV steroids, 1,000 milligrams through the IV, which is very, very, it was annoying. It made me feel very weird. Steroids just make your heart all fuzzy. And at that point, it was just up and down with feeling of, one, nervousness. I'm in the hospital. I don't want to be here. And all this medicine pumped in me. What the heck is going on? There was about a whole 2 pages of medicine that they put me on in the hospital that I don't remember what it was, but it was everything from benzodiazepines to make me stop shaking, because at that point I was just violently shaking the whole entire time. Just myoclonus, which is your muscles are tremoring, and that's just facial twitches. It's the nature of autoimmune encephalitis. It's the beauty of it. But I was treated with steroids and IVIG. They were about to do a plasma exchange on me, which requires a port in the neck, but luckily they didn't have to do that. So things started to look pretty okay. They said I had it's basically like I got nicked by it. Now, many of these people, they are forever disabled. They either, most of the time, they don't live, or they're not able to do regular life functions again. They'll never be able to drive. They are in wheelchairs. They are still in a coma. It's very sad to see what happens to these people, these amazing, amazing people that get affected by this. But I was very lucky to be able to walk out on my own 2 feet. I did have to get wheeled out on a wheelchair, but I told them I'm walking in the parking lot. I need to have this first step going in the right direction.
Right.
I will not let this keep me down. So during that time, I went to physical therapy and speech therapy, just trying to learn how to walk and talk again. And that was my only focus. It was one foot in front of the other. If I can do this, I can then progress on to something else. If I can progress on from that something else, I can then do that. And the main goal always was getting back to the mats. It might sound a little silly, but that really was it. I wanted to do everything I could to get back to doing this. It's what I love. It's what I loved. But for the next couple months, it was difficult, because you would see signs of recovery. You would see that I could walk again. You would see that I could talk again. But mentally, I was so fatigued from doing basic functions of walking my apartment, just outside, taking the dogs out for a lap. I would then have to sit down and lay down for the next 3 hours. So it was a process just to be able to get back up on my 2 feet. But over those next couple months, I would be good for about 3 weeks and then have another week and a half, 2-week decline. They're called flare-ups. And it's when the body starts to shut itself down again. It's when it's not feeling too well. It's when it gets overstimulated and the brain still is healing at that point. And it was tough to let it heal. It was tough to give yourself grace. And I wouldn't say I'm the best patient. I wanted to move, I wanted to do, and I wanted to be more than what I was. And that's always what I've wanted to do. I wanted to be the best version of myself. I wanted to be the best person in the classroom. I wanted to be the best person on the mats, because, and I don't know why, but it's a drive I have. It's always something that I've wanted to do. And it was very, very challenging over the next couple months to see how I would be getting healthier and then decline, and then get healthier and then decline. It was frustrating. I was angry. I was so mad.
While you were in the hospital, did you lose a lot of weight, like being in the hospital a bit? How much weight did you lose?
Great point. So I competed at 220 pounds, and then within the next month and a half time period, I was down to 186 pounds.
Jeez.
So
40 pounds in a month. That's
40 pounds in about a month. And I looked like it. And I wish I could say that was the lowest I was in terms of weight. But
You kept going down?
this is where it gets fun. During that time in the summer, after I was getting healthier, what felt like it, I was still on steroids, and not the good kind, but the oral medication and the prednisone, and that is to reduce the inflammation in the brain. So on those, your body can naturally hold on to more fluid and water. So I did blow up to about 240 pounds. I didn't really care about weight or anything. I just wanted to be able to move and work out again. So I realized that I was pretty large in July, 240 pounds. So I started to try and hit the bike a little more, go on some walks, and the body just was not ready to do anything. The next step, when we were giving the body enough rest, we were still taking the medications, and things just weren't progressing. They started to look at if it was cancer-based, perineoplastic. So I was doing MRIs with and without contrast, chest CTs. I was doing PET scans with a bunch of radiation pumped in the body, hoping that nothing would glow like a Christmas tree.
At this point, they still don't know it's autoimmune encephalitis, right?
Great point. So they actually found it very, very early that it was autoimmune encephalitis.
Okay.
It was one of three things. And I'm glad that they found it, because if this disease does go untreated, you will become the unfortunate events of not being able to recover very well. So I had a wonderful neurologist that had three different ideas. If the vancomycin, the antibiotics, did not work on the meningitis, it was going to be either a brain tumor, and if the brain tumor didn't show up in the MRI or head CT, it was going to be autoimmune encephalitis. They put an EEG on, and I don't know the acronym of that. I kind of do, but I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it. It was a 19-hour continuous EEG. It measures the brain waves. So they wanted to see how my brain waves were doing when I was sleeping and awake. I wasn't really awake, but they could tell when I was actually resting versus when my brain was still on and I just wasn't there. So within those, the graphs that you can see, there's delta and theta waves. And if those are slowing down, that is indicative, or the signs pointing to autoimmune encephalitis. So with that, that's where the doctors started to do the treatment plan of the IVIG, like I mentioned, the intravenous steroids, and then the treatment plan after, the oral steroids, the antibiotic, the probiotic,
Right.
everything that your body needs to try and get healthy.
Right.
But at that point in the late summertime, when they were doing all the other tests to see if it was cancer-based, luckily nothing came back, so that was good, but it's still the looming question of why is this still doing what it is, and what can we do to fix it?
Yeah.
There is a wonderful drug out there. It's called rituximab, or Rituxan, and it's basically a chemo. It falls in line with the chemotherapy family. It is a targeted cell therapy, and it goes after, I believe, the T or the B cells to completely eradicate them, to try and build up better, and so they won't continuously have friendly fire on the brain. And with that one really jarred my system. I don't know why, because my memory is very fuzzy with this wonderful brain and all the illnesses that I had happen to it. My memory is very much so wiped for a long time. There's months of just nothing. I'll see pictures and not realize what that was. I'm still waiting on the day. It's like amnesia, where I can just have all my memories come back.
Right.
I don't think that's going to happen, but
That's
it's a little annoying, but I have them now.
yeah.
But yes, during those infusions, so those were 2-year based infusions, and I had them every 6 months. When you go through it the first time, you don't really feel very well. It's similar to chemotherapy. You don't feel well. You feel like crap. And unfortunately, I felt like crap for a very long time. Like I said, I was 240 pounds. And when I started these infusions in November of 2023, I got down to 160 pounds by February of 2024. But right after my first infusion, I'll hit you with a little good news. Right after the first infusion, I was still training ever so often. I would go in and watch. I would go and try to do the technique. I was not really rolling, but I had done so much before I got sick, and just enough to continually get on the mats to do what was needed to be done, that I was luckily and so graciously promoted to blue belt in December of 2023. As you can see, I am still a blue belt. It's been a long journey to continue to want to have this blue belt and to continue to want to get on the mats. There's people around me who are now in their purple belts, and people who I started with who are through the high level blue belts, but I cannot continue to be the pair myself with them game. I have to realize what happened to me happened. I need to go on my own terms. This is me. This is my life. This is my time.
Yeah. They say jiu-jitsu is like everybody has their own journey in jiu-jitsu. Like everybody's different. So someone that is like promoting either faster than you or it's like everybody's different. So you can't really compare to yourself to somebody else. You know what I mean?
Couldn't
So
agree more.
especially after what you just went through. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Up to that point.
Yes, that is 100% accurate. And when I hear things like that, it puts things into reality. It puts things into, it just makes more sense. And it's weird being an internal player on this whole game. Like I'm player one, and I'm mad about the outcome that's happened. But when I see someone who talks to me, someone like you, and you say, yo, calm down here. Look at what you've done. Look at everything that you have been able to accomplish with these circumstances that you have had. It puts things into a better space, and it makes me realize, I have come a pretty far way to get to where I am today.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for this journey. I'm mad that it happened. I think I'll always be mad. I wanted to be the old me for so long. I felt like I wanted closure of that I will never get that old me again. But I'm loving this new me. I'm so happy that I've been able to continually move past those sad moments. A big one was getting this blue belt. It was continuing on even when I was at my lowest of weight and feeling worse than I ever had before. It was continually showing up to the mats. It was doing what was needed to get done, even though I didn't want to do it. It was giving my body enough time to heal and to rest on days that I needed it to then go get that extra push in. It was a unique experience I don't want to live again, but I want to continue to push on and to continue to get better day in and day out. But when I received the blue belts, it was the biggest moment of my entire life. It was an accomplishment that I almost died multiple times. It was that I had overcome that. It was that I learned how to walk again. I learned how to talk again. I learned how to be me. I learned how to smile. I learned how to laugh. I learned how to not be so anxious going out in public, realizing I'm not the old me. I'm not the athlete that I was. I'm this new version of me, and I'm still able to do what I love, and I'm still able to get to a point where I'm happy, and that was a huge accomplishment. And I had to realize that day in and day out after looking back on, I'm not feeling too well. And I pull out the blue belt and the white belt and say, I did this, and then I did that even when I was sick. I'm able to just get past that rough little day to look at my belt and realize, I did the thing. I got back on the mats and I was doing it. But it was extremely tough to want to continue even being at my lowest weight. I was weak, I was brittle, I was slow. I wasn't the cool fast guy at 160 pounds. I was still my slow and unimpressively slow person. But it made me stronger at that lower weight. It made me mentally stronger. It's made me the mentally strongest I think you could ever be.
Right.
And
I think you probably got like a pretty good concept of like using your opponent's weight against them, when you're weaker and smaller than they are. And just being able to do that like in the midst of all those adversities is pretty impressive. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Thank you for saying that. No, you're 100% right. And it was a time where I had to learn how to play bottom game a whole lot. Yeah. I was always a top game player. I'm a big guy. I like being on top. Yeah. And I had to learn how to play bottom. I had to utilize the technique. And I had to utilize the technique in life to get back to being where I wanted to be. And luckily,
that's like a great example of how everybody's like journey is like different. You know what I mean? Because like when I was a kid, all the way up until like I was brown belt or something, I always liked playing the bottom game. So it's like I always called it like lazy jiu-jitsu, where I'm just like kind of just waiting for the person to do something bad. I'm just kind of sitting there, and I would always wait for the bigger guy to tire themselves out, and then I'll start attacking. But then as I got bigger and older, I couldn't just do that because especially like leaving jiu-jitsu for a little bit and then coming back, my cardio was terrible. So like I couldn't just stay on the bottom and just hold the person. I had to go on top and work on top game, and it was basically like a flip script where I had to change what I thought about going into a grappling match. So
it makes you mentally stronger too.
It gets you thinking. That, you know what I mean? It's kind of like pop quizzes, I guess.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean?
It 100% is a pop quiz. A quiz that you weren't ready for,
Right.
a quiz that you didn't want to do, but darn it, now I'm in the quiz mode and I got to do this.
Yep, exactly. No, yeah, yeah.
But to get to where I am today and to have this interview and to meet your brother Moses, it took every ounce of me to want to do this, to want to be here, to want to continue on. And that is another good analogy for jiu-jitsu. You have the choice to quit.
Yeah.
I had the choice to quit in life. I had the choice to keep me down. But just like in jiu-jitsu, you can either fight to get back up the top position, or you can choose to stay on the bottom. And I wanted to choose to get back up. I wanted to go another round. I slapped and bumped that sickness right in the face, and I was able to take it down.
And that's actually a great analogy from what you had to go through, because you had to stay at the bottom for a little bit and work on your bottom game, work on how to do things from the bottom in order to get back on top to, do that top position again.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Luckily enough, I was able to move down here to Florida. I lived in Chicago, and I was trying to find a gym, and I checked out a couple places. They were fine. A school that you don't want to be to right when you walk in the door. It's just, you can tell from the environment, you can tell from the people. And luckily I was able to meet your brother Moses, and we're in this amazing garage gym about 2.5 seconds from my house. And I fell in love with it. I had to re-fall in love with the sport because I hadn't been training a whole lot up until that point. It was a very on off, just trying to get my body to heal up to get down here. And I had been medically cleared to do everything I wanted to do. And it was a journey to want to come back on the mats. I was out of shape. I was actually bigger at that point. I'd gone from then the 160 pounds up to 230 pounds again. So my weight has fluctuated a whole lot in a little under 3 years.
Is it because of the flare-ups that you lose all the weight again, or is it just
during those flare-ups, it was impossible for me to eat. I just could not eat, and I lost a bunch of weight during the flare-ups. I lost a bunch of weight during the infusions. That was the biggest thing.
Okay.
But I started to get healthier and healthier, and I think I got a little lazier and lazier when I started to gain more weight. And I kept telling myself this little excuses of, I'll go train tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll just have this McDonald's tonight, and then I'll be done with it. And then I'll train in the morning for sure.
Right.
And there's those little mental defeats that start to stack up until you realize, goodness, I'm not where I want to be right now.
Yeah. I think that's something that I had to, I guess, figure out, like navigate, I guess, because I stopped training like competitively and like consistently when I started trying to focus on my career. And like I would always have the time to go train, but I'm always like, I'll go train tomorrow. And then if I don't train on Monday, then Tuesday comes around, I'm like, I didn't train yesterday, so what's the point of this whole week? So it's like, and then just months and months and months kept passing by, and I'm like, dang, I haven't trained in like 6 months.
Yep.
And then I go train for like a week or two and then leave again for another 6 months. It's just that kind of like trying to learn and be disciplined to, push yourself even though you don't feel like it. Because it's always happens where you don't feel like going, but then you actually go and train on the mat. And when you leave, you're going home, you're like, that was awesome. I feel great.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's that anxiety of, my goodness, I haven't been here in so long, and these people are going to be so much better than me. I know I'm out of shape. I know I'm going to make about 20 seconds in before I'm huffing and puffing. But like you said, it's that once you get in that car and you realize I did that, I'm that guy again, it's like, yes, that's such a huge win mentally and physically. You push through that barrier of, I don't really want to do this anymore, and you got that win. And if you keep stacking those wins, you'll get to a better place. And if you miss one day, it's an accident. 2 days is a choice. Your choices matter.
Unless you're on vacation.
Unless you're on vacation.
You got to relax sometimes, right?
Yeah.
No, that's funny. Are you religious at all, or?
Yes, and I think I was and kind of have been struggling with the faith. I don't know why this happened to me, and I keep asking why, and I wish I didn't. I'm just wondering what's the message in this. And I actually was hoping that you brought this up because I'm currently struggling to find out why this happened and why did this happen specifically to me. Am I supposed to be a messenger for this? Am I supposed to, maybe this is the message. Maybe I'm supposed to help out individuals like yourself who are struggling with one thing or another and maybe don't want to go do the thing you have to do, but hopefully this is a call. But I'll turn it over to you.
it always, whenever I see someone like struggling or going through a lot of I guess mishaps or trials in life, I always think back to like the story of Job, where God and the devil were basically having a conversation, and the devil's like, he's only remaining faithful because he's got all this stuff. You're always protecting him and stuff like that. And God is like, all right, take all that stuff away. I'm pretty sure he's going to be, remain faithful. All the, physical things were taken away, and he remained faithful. And then he's like, oh, he's healthy. So, of course he's going to worship you because he's healthy. You know what I mean? And God's like, all right, take his, you can go all the way up until, like, don't take his life, make him sick, all that. Don't take his life. And throughout the story of Job, Job kept on, he remained faithful. Like, all his friends, his wife even were, basically like bashing God and saying like, you're keeping your faith basically for what? God's not with you. He turned his back on you. And throughout the entire story, I actually heard this, viewpoint recently, that throughout the entire story, like, he does say that, like, oh, he mentions like darkness is my friend, all this stuff. Like, he basically complains, but throughout the entire time he's praying to God. So he's acknowledging that God is like the higher power, and he acknowledges that God is sovereign over all. So he doesn't turn his back on God and renounce his faith. He always he always acknowledges that God is faithful and just. It's either in Romans or Corinthians. It says that that trials are a test of faith. Yeah. So remaining, going through all these things and remaining faithful and knowing that God's got your back. Like, always, I told my wife one time, I forgot what we were talking about, but it was she was saying something like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? Oh, we were talking about like the state of the world. Something's like so crazy, yeah. And we're talking about like persecution, like how Christians are getting persecuted in Africa and stuff like that. And she's like, oh, what if this happens? What if this happens? I'm like, I mean, as long as we have our faith, we can lose our house, we can lose our cats, our family. As long as we have our faith in God, like, they can't touch our soul. So like, our soul, we know at the end of the day is we're going to be in heaven. You know what I mean? We're going to be serving God for all eternity. So as long as we remain faithful and obey and out of love, we keep seeking God, then like, at least my mentality is like, anything can happen, but as long as I'll still remain faithful because I know that he's good, just, you know what I mean?
I'm definitely still faithful, and I love that you talked about the story of Job. I got the chill. I have the chills right now when you were talking about that. It's just, you can't turn your back on God. Like, there's always a plan. There's always something that he's trying to teach you. There's always something that there's a golden nugget out of everything that happens to you. You're supposed to take something away. I'm just hoping I'm able to take away that because of everything that happened to me, I can help out one other person. I love to help people. That's always been a dream of mine, is to help people, whether it's to be better for themselves or to make them laugh and smile. I feel like that's one of my good things I can do. I can make people laugh and smile pretty easily. But I would say that the faith aspect was struggling a little bit. And still always praying, still always wanting the best. It's just, I didn't know why this happened. I was angry. I'm still kind of angry. It's
I mean, that's extremely valid to want to ask God, like, why this happen to me? You know what I mean? Kind of like Job, he's saying, darkness is my friend. He's kind of like, I guess getting into like a depressive state, but like, how do I say it? Like, if you're remaining in that, like, blaming God for all of it, then it's not the best state of mind to stay in. You know what I mean?
100%.
They're still like testing and trying to figure out why all this happened to you, right?
Yep.
Correct. No, go.
Oh no, I just said correct.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The best I guess advice I can give you is keep read your Bible and keep reading and keep praying, because even the Bible says to draw that God says to draw closer to me and I'll draw close to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that was good.
Yeah. So like no, maybe these I also see like these moments of like trials as like God kind of calling out to you and saying like, hey, I want to talk to you. I actually, there was a moment where I was like, things weren't really going my way, I guess. And I was kind of like, why are all these things happening? And I'm like, this kind of sucks. And I'm like, I start praying to God and start asking God, I'm like, why are you allowing all these things to happen? And God's like, why am I going to take you out of the trials when the trials is the only place that I can talk to you? And I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like after that moment, it's like every time I would, like something like some struggles will start happening. I'm like, I got to start, reading the Bible more, start praying to God more. And that's just something that I kept in my mind. Like whenever, like everyday life, I just, thought to myself, I need to pray more. I need to, because like even the Bible says, pray without ceasing, right? So yeah, that's something that I had thought of one day, and I'm like, wow, that's like very profound, very like, okay, this I understand. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I definitely know what you mean on that aspect.
Yeah.
It's when you leave it all up into God's hands, you will end up on the right path. And I truly think coming down here, being able to get back and get healthy again, be medically cleared, and being able to do what I love again, that is the path.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be on the path. And it's a tough one. You're never alone on the path. You always have, whether it be God or your friends or your new friend, there's always someone who is willing to do the hard work with you and to want to encourage you, to want to see you be your best self. And that's the only thing we can ask for, is a community that can lift us up and rise up above everything and want to see each other do great things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's I feel like that's a great closing point. So I appreciate you, Topher. I appreciate you joining us, and I hope you guys liked it. And stay tuned for our next podcast. I'm going to have my brother on here next. So we're going to have a fun time. I'll see you guys in the next one.
That'll be a good one.